Hi, everybody. Somebody jump on. Let me know if you can hear me. I know I haven't been on in a few weeks, but more family having health issues. Hi there. My step-great-grandfather, he was, and all my other relatives, a lot of them were from the Netherlands, and I have a bunch of those. There's a range of objects with little windmills on them. They're pretty popular with, I think, Dutch Americans. So jump on and let me know if you have a topic. I have 4 tarot decks, just some 7-Up and coffee. I finally realized, I was like, oh, it is the 3rd Friday of the month. I might as well just get back into the game by jumping on for a little bit. I'll probably be on for a good hour. I just, felt like socializing this way. So ask away. It's nice to be back home in a routine, and I am getting ready for some Halloween basically material with you guys. Just some special content. I've got something planned for the cemetery, and I'm very excited. The reason I'm planning it, in part, is because I'm going to kind of visit, select some of the historical graves. I just think that's a really, nice way to honor and respect the dead, is, go into history a little bit. My allergies are just awful, but it's not any worse, today than any other day. This is my iced coffee. And so I'm just like, another month it'll be better. I got my eucalyptus tea, eucalyptus leaves for the shower. All those things help, so. What is new with all of you guys? I think it's been, 2 weeks, something like that, since I've been on. I'm still going to, got a live ritual plan and everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. Recently a subscriber sent me a book on consciousness and the way that it relates to basically the dead, and it's really super interesting. He asked me to do an anonymous book review. Don't want. Anyway, if you're here, just chat away, ask away. Yeah, I am still working with the Goetia. I think even when I do other projects, that's one of my old favorites that I started getting into as a teenager. And lately I've been working with Marquis Renault. That's the way I like to say his name. So, you know, in my last couple videos I have posted, that's Goetia stuff. I tried my hand at some demon gnosis, at least articulating it. I get a lot of those channeled kinds of messages. But up next will be just a ritual video of you know, the enchant for Marquis Renault, and that'll be great. I got a ritual road now, so. What you know, what are you interested in about the Goetia? Like what always interested in how other people get interested in you know, the Goetia. Like, hey, what's your story? I was recently talking to them about, you know, with a friend, and I was like, how do you get interested in this stuff? Which kind of sounds like a I don't know, a weird judgmental question or whatever, but for me, being like a psychic medium, I think it's really fascinating the reasons that other people like the occult. The cult is really just a way that I, you know, like kind of overlap with my abilities just to try to explain it. I still don't have, you know, the answers, but a lot of questions. No one's on now? Well, there's a lot of different, you know, avenues of, I think that it comes down to explanations that really just kind of touches on the paranormal in general. I think specifically ghosts, because aliens are kind of more, and Bigfoot, those kinds of things look at the physical kinds of evidence and perhaps witnesses. But with the Goetia, actually just ghosts, spirits, anything. It's as I've kind of gotten older and just paid, I guess, kind of attention. I'll work with a particular deity, and then I'll like do usually concluding in a ritual, and then I'll just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of go do mundane stuff for a little bit where I focus. I mean, I might be doing tarot, but I won't focus so much, and then like with Renault, I just, you know, I'll just start thinking about, I started thinking about little creatures for, you know, maybe days, could be weeks, and that will kind of be a repeated theme in my head, and I won't really analyze it, but I'll just, you know, notice it's there. And, you know, then maybe so I'll talk to somebody and I'll go, oh, okay, I think this demon spirit is really trying to work with me. And that a lot of times that's kind of the feeling. It's more like a feeling that I'm being drawn towards that next spirit that I'm supposed to work with. When I was younger, though, it was just kind of, as far as like formal occult, I was like, okay, you know, I'd pull out Crowley's Goetia and just pick a spirit that I, you know, what am I drawn to, maybe based on the abilities. When I was, you know, also, you know, kind of beginning in the occult, I just was like, oh, shape-shifting abilities, wealth, or, you know, kind of those very surface level things that, you know, demons are supposed to offer. But I quickly realized they're much deeper than that. It's not, hey, I just want money and I'm going to get it, or shape-shifting into a different creature, but it's like more along the lines of by practicing these rituals, you can shapeshift your consciousness more effectively. You might find money might, you know, happen your way, or you get some kind of huge medical debt relieved, or, you know, bill dropped. And it's really those kinds of things, and it doesn't have a time frame. So I, you know, kind of quit looking at the Wicca surface level looking stuff, but those are great places to start. I think that's how a lot of people get interested in the occult is, you know, Wicca spells, one-on-one. How can I make you fall in love with me? But that's really not where the gold is. I think that the value lies that it inflames interest. But a good way to communicate that I recommend with any spirit, particularly the Goetia, you have your sigils. And I am not a good drawer. I have talked about that a lot, but it really opens a door. It honors, it invites that particular spirit. That is, it's beyond language. You know, the early cavemen, they just drew on, petroglyphs. And so that is this primal connection that man has with demons and spirits, gods, angels, that they are themselves more primal, and they understand the language of thought and art more so than, specifically speak. Of course, spirits like Renova are very good at language, but that comes from thousands of years of mind reading and things like that. And this is the dark side. Spend your time in the one-on-one Wicca stuff like I talked about, because it's not so much that the dark side is edgy, but it is a self-discovery, I would say. And I think that learning all those grounding techniques, being drawn to certain rocks, and grounding is not just like meditating. There's probably 50 different grounding things I could name, techniques. They will protect you when you get into the meat and bones of the occult, when you're ready to go to a cemetery and take a spirit home with you, if that's something you want to do. If because astral parasites, it's not about good and evil, but they need energy, and you need to have your defenses built up. So that's my recommendation. Thank you for the questions. I really appreciate that. So we'll talk about this question here. Have you ever had any poltergeist activity after working with a specific demon or maybe a trickster spirit? Yeah, a lot of the demons have that trickster energy, like Loki, and you can pick up, a system, and that is there. So I'll take my little drink of coffee. I really have had only a few physical manifestations or unexplained things happen since I basically banished an evil entity from the haunted house I lived in as a child. A few exceptions are really just more random. I really haven't had so much like a in-your-face ritual experience. But typically for me now, what happens is leading up to a ritual, usually leading up to. Sometimes I'll get really this clear-minded feeling after an intense ritual, but it'll be unexplained noises. So it's like I can't really say it's paranormal. I'll just hear bangings or something. I'll think that I, heard a voice or something, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm home alone. Just little things, but I think that I don't, pay too much attention because I'm used to that after ritual. But when I was younger, at first I just, saw ghosts with my mind's eye, but then my family and I, we moved into a haunted house, and after a while, honestly, it was the classic haunted house stuff. And, you know, I guess we could call my father and my sister a little bit emotionally constipated, because they not like going to talk about that openly, but they have privately confided to me in the year since that they saw all kinds of physical things. So I'm talking about like the voices, stinks, shadows. I did get scratches three or four times. I was asleep and I felt like hands around my neck, like I was being strangled. And I did end up having like a little bit of bruising from it. It was very, very real. And I would definitely count that as, you know, this physical manifestation. I mean, doors, I remember a few times when I was a kid, walking down the hall, and the bathroom door would just slam shut. It's not like the air where, you know, it kind of pulls it, but I'm talking about just slams. And of course, that would go along with, I would see these dead people. And of course, I learned my dad and my sister, they saw similar things. One of the biggest things, though, is like the garage was kind of where all the activity was. And I mean, you could walk in there and the temperature would drop so fast. And we had like this, it was like a brick, because my dad had been a bricklayer, several jobs. And we had a home security system. And anyway, it showed the garage door opening in the middle of the night, and this saw, like a handsaw, just like, looks like it blows past the edge of the screen, and ended up on the roof. I think my sister might have been the one who noticed it. So we're just like all standing outside, like, and it's like there wasn't anybody. I mean, it was meant to confuse and to scare, and I have encountered these activities with other people, but I finally just I did some prayers and I banished the well, it was an evil dead guy who had murdered a couple of people, and in the way I understood it as a Christian at the time, I said, God, you know, talking to my higher self, please, I can't see this anymore. It's driving me crazy, meaning in person. I can't, it's, you know, it's just so hard. And I really have never seen a full-blown physical manifestation like as an adult. I have seen, I mean, some things in my mind's eye, they're so real, they're so detailed, but as I've done, you know, engaged my abilities with the occult, it really, it makes all the imagery in my mind more vivid, you know, so, but there'll be things that stand out. Hi, welcome to the chat. Last year, I did a video about it. In the weeks leading up to Halloween last year, I mean, this was like, it got steadily more noisy, but it wasn't, you know, anybody in the house. And I just was having uncharacteristic insomnia. And then it got to this point where it sounded like it was like, if you were going to open a classroom door and you're expecting people to be on the other side, just all these voices. And I was just really dreaming like about really engaged in the way that people would die, which is kind of unusual. For me, it's more about people coming to me about the way they lived and what their unfinished business is. And it was really in my face. And long story short, we almost got into a really bad car accident, but I was supposed to drive. I was so tired. I thought, the noises got so bad, I thought, okay, like, maybe I'm having a fever, I need to just be out in the sleep in the living room, you know, and it didn't matter because then the noises would shift to different areas of the house. And I was too tired to drive. And if I would have been driving, I think that I wonder if things would have been different because I'm just not as experienced driver with heavy traffic. You know, I drive, but as far as like inner city heavy traffic is not so much my thing, but my husband is more used to that. So right after that, no more physical activity in the sense of me hearing noises and banging. And I mean, not just a little bit, but a lot. And that just cut out. And then every once in a while, if I'm having a ritual, sometimes I'll notice those things again. You know, so do you okay, I'll ask you a question. Do you feel like you need to have a paranormal experience? A lot of people I've talked to, they say, I need to go to a haunted house. I need to experience it. And I think a part of me can sympathize with that, but you know, I mean, every case is individual, and of course, that's how a lot of people get attachments, because you're looking for something that's looking for you. It needs energy, so I've done investigative work in another city I lived. I've gone to, you know, with a group of people to just basically act as the psychic. Recently, I've been going to other places and just, it's been kind of hard for me to decide what to do because, well, honestly, you know, there's this segment on my channel that is satanic, and I like don't want to say, hey, thank you for letting me be at your hotel. I'm going to post a link to my psychic feelings, and then people come onto my channel and they see, you know, my satanic leanings, and that would be huge trouble. So for the most part, I don't think I have filmed exactly on location. I've gone out to the, you know, hiking and camping areas, and it'll, you know, hopefully I can find a residential, commercial, or even private residence that would allow me to film the, you know, even a residence where I post anonymously. I would definitely be down to do it. Recently, my friend, it's a very good friend, Black Magic Sorcerer, just long conversations about all things occult. He's been asking me to look into a missing persons case, and I did like a 30-minute segment on my feelings concerning that, or, you know, my impressions. So I'm not afraid to dig into stuff like that, and I really, this channel is all about me putting that to use. Finally, I mean, when I was a kid, I never thought I would have an outlet exactly for this. I was like, I'll have to be normal, and you know, a part of my life, a very important part of my life, is normal, but you know, so is being strange, so is being dark, I would say. But I'm not just dark for the sake of, without purpose, I would say. But it's more about individuation. Helps me understand that darkness. So, anyway, ask away. Any other questions? I'm here. I'll probably be on another half hour. I know a lot of people probably didn't make it on because I haven't done videos in a couple weeks, but you know, third Friday of every month, unless I know ahead of time, like I won't be able to make it. Last time I had a computer issue. My husband had to replace components of the computer. It like was totally fine, and then I just wasn't even able to use the computer at that time. So Well, I guess in short would be that my view is that every time you take a nap, you're asleep, you are astral projecting. So that is just your consciousness, and it automatically does this. It's just that most people don't have that kind of awareness. Some things can kind of add to that heightened sensation, like if you set an alarm and you keep pushing the snooze button, that will, a lot of times will lead to lucid dreams. But that's just that, even if it seems silly, that's still you. And if you keep telling yourself, like when you're awake, hey, this is still me, eventually when you're sleeping, you'll kind of have that little realization. And be able to probably do some more stuff with it. I've always been able to astral project while awake, but it took me a long time to realize that that's what I was doing. And another example of like how I think everyone astral projects is like when you think of yourself, you're like, let's say you're going to go out on a date, but you're in your pajamas. If you imagine the way that you want, you think you're going to look in an hour when you dress up, that's your astral body. That is existing on a different plane without you right now. So you can do cool things with it. Sometimes I'll like to look the way I used to look in my last life. I think because a lot of, the dead kind of are from older times, and it just feel like you blend in more. So. But I think that comes easier to psychic mediums. So all kinds of deals. So let's go into it. Welcome to the chat. So it's like when we talk about asking for things, I think people think that it has to be huge and big. But the main point is that it has to be real. Spirits of any kind, they want to feel and ghosts. They want to feel the physical plane, because that's the huge thing, right? Common sense types of shit that we think about. Ghosts, what's the thing, like, maybe they're missing their feet, or you just hear breathing but you don't see anybody. They're not really real. In other words, they can't ground because they're without a vessel, a body. So they enact the things that they want through their attachments to people. So essentially, that is what they want. Be serious about magic. Never make a deal that you're not going to keep. Don't make a strict timeline for yourself unless you feel really comfortable with doing kinds of formal rituals. But keep your deal because, might be a year, might be 2 years, it might just be in your mind, but you will get what you're looking for. And in return, they get things like, I've done fastings dedicated to different spirits of the Goetia. I've given my blood. And the way I decide what does the spirit want, say, okay, Marquis Renove crosses my mind. I think that, I just envision myself articulating things more. Well, I'll say, okay, what do you want? Or what do I think? What I'm open. And I'll usually within the next week, sometimes next 5 minutes, whatever, have that understanding and knowing, which is, just like how I would describe how I know, it's like how I jump dead people and living people. jump their consciousness, then I'm like, okay, that's what you want, and it's basically a deal. And that will usually include things like I will perform a ritual, sometimes public, which is what I use YouTube for. I'm saying their name. I'm talking about how important they are, and let's say a spirit is associated with destruction, evil. There can be danger, but I also do want people to know that the main thing here is gnosis, and how the human spirit relationship can be rich for both humans and spirits. But there is always something they want, and it is energy. You can go by the book and you can just offer things that a book says and try it and see if that works for you, or you can just be really creative. It doesn't have to be literal. A fast is great. With President Marvis, I pledged to do healthier habits to solidify my identity in the physical plane. Because I feel like that is what President Marvis is all about, is about a celebration of life through health and vitality. And you just try your best to have a connection. We can't just, okay, I'm going to pray for health, but there's that associated physical act, and that is what spirits want. They can basically jump you in that agreed upon moment, and then they get to feel what they're looking to feel. So feelings and emotions are very important, and it's a privilege and a very, very good blessing for the living, even when we could go into how bad it can get, right? But it's still such an honor to be alive and meaningful. Yeah, I do like EA co-editing and all the bald people. I've tried over the years to try to understand why the heck it's so controversial to just like them, but I think that you could pay for, let's say you think EA's services are expensive, right? That's fine. There's hours of free content, and he has like a, you could go to blog.co, I think is the name of it. And it's just free content and forums. It's fucking free. I mean, what is there to not like? If you don't agree with something, then that's fine. But it's like, some people charge an arm and a leg to get half of what I think those people put out. I like Behemoth X, Orally. I just think that it kind of resonates with the side of me that likes the ritual and the public acknowledgement. I have a lot in common with the co-editing in a funny way. Just Mormon side of the family and adoption. Those feelings. Those feelings that still I must. It seems like EA explained it, where it's like you could go for a long time without it really mattering, and then like just hit you again. So that's kind of how I would describe it. But I think he channels his energy. Channels that, that frustrating energy into this. And I think, definitely being, growing up with religious people, that I wasn't a part of that culture, and not feeling accepted. It did just inflame my passion for the occult and Satanism. But I decided to not make it purely emotional, but I do embrace it and go, that is definitely a part of, what turned me on to this. But is it why I'm a Satanist? No. I think that the Christian God is envious, just kind of, blind, and I think the natural state of man is more of a pagan type of thinking, and I think Satanism is really an embrace of paganism. The Ars Goetia, it's all these different, Lucid Foods, Refocal. Everything. It's the embrace of the world and life, unlike Christianity, and it's just it's really just I don't know. It's like an embrace of the self. But yeah, that's, I think the courses that EA and those people provide, just if it works for you, keep on it, take it seriously, and I think that practice really will benefit you, along with practicing techniques. I have not worked with Fornius. I worked with Duke Batham not too long ago. And like he's kind of associated with travel. If you could take it literal, or it could be astral travel. But that also kind of implies cultural changes in language. Yeah, usually, so we were talking about like, how do you know what God or what spirit wants what offering? Like with the Ars Goetia, there's publishings by S. Conley that will name, what specific thing a spirit should like. Or you could kind of, you don't even have to be super creative. Go, President Marvis is associated with health, so a good thing would be a health-related change that I will implement. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a by-the-book occultist because I'm a psychic medium first, occultist later. I mean, I like formal rituals. So the way that I recommend for you is to just, probably just start out with a book type of a way. And if that feels right to you, do so. But you probably, as time goes on, you feel more creative about it. So this, and you can just send me an email privately if you want to recommend books or ask me about references, because I'm always looking for more content. I do like the cemetery, what do we want to call them? Ride-alongs. So, that's definitely right up my alley. Yeah, Andres. Boy, I've had so many people talking to me about Andres. And I think that I've been wanting to put him on my list, but I'm going to wait till that kind of time is right feeling. And, I'll know. I probably have done real rituals for maybe half of the Ars Goetia, and the other half is some of my next adventures. I just kind of go with whatever is pulling me. It's kind of hard to describe. It's just like when I'm going somewhere and I'll start the person at the table next to me. I'll start reading their mind, and it usually requires no effort on my part. Then I'll just kind of sort of snap back into myself I astral projected onto this person, and I mean it's really just reading a lot of information. I mean, part of it is still to me hey, I'm probably just adding up all these subtle physical cues, and my subconscious mind puts it together to create this explanation. But that's not what I entirely think it is. I think that there's obviously so many factors, and then it's kind of that same way with a god or a spirit, and I'll just be. The best stuff happens to me when I'm not consciously thinking, and it'll just be that, hey, I know this is what I'm going to do next. Okay, so with hair, yeah, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Um, so I would say if you're trying to really like manipulate as far as change a person, usually stuff like that, like burning, because it's this final physical act, that should aid. But I think if you're just trying to gather intel, we're trying to learn how you can kind of project yourself as a different person to therefore attract, the person you're looking to attract. Then probably not. You don't need to do that. And the best magic is by that, in that second kind of way I described, where you create the change to attract what you're looking for. So let's say you like some guy because, I don't know, he's rich and got a good personality, right? You kind of change a couple of things. That change within yourself is always required. And maybe that one specific guy won't be what ends up happening for you, but somebody similar will. And the best way to ensure you get what you want from magic is you make the change. And it can just be mentally. That's very valid when we change our ways of thinking. And yeah, I mean, fuck it. Like if you feel like doing formal ritual, do it. Plan the astrological hour, tarot card, associated stones. Otherwise, just be like, all right, I'm ready to draw a sigil and invoke said spirit. I've done both ways, mostly the latter, until I really got really involved and understood the occult a lot more. So okay, let's see. So let's talk about angels and demons as these categorized as opposing forces, good and evil. So it's like, do they hate each other? I thought about that for a long time, but first thing to discuss is, like, Lilith is a demon. She's a demon in the sense that she is like an archetype for the mother of all, this physical incarnation. Associated, you could put sexualize it, because of course that's that physical act. But it's demonized because it's enjoying the physical plane, this individual life. Samuel or Azrael, the angel of death, is an angel, the male angel. Lilith and Samuel, they have intercourse. They have a friendship. One's an angel, one's a demon, and there's many stories like this if you want to look into traditional religion about angels and demons having friendships and relationships. And I think rather than being enemies, that they are they're just characterizations. A lot of times within our own consciousness, it's a key component to understanding the nature of angels and demons, is that you get past the good and bad kind of a judgment, and you just understand that they're non-human entities that are, they're really close to being human beings. They have different agendas, so angels and demons, they all seem to have their own individual agenda, but some try to warn human beings so that they can hopefully be incarnated as a human. In Buddhism, demons angels, but specifically demons, they get incarnated in, back into people after they do a certain amount of good karma. They also, it's like, the jinn, they have individual personalities for thousands of years instead of just, one lifetime and all these things. And rather than one-sided, it's just kind of consciousness revolves around the human experience, and it has a lot more to do with that than good versus evil. But yeah, I think that my experience is that angels and demons have a lot of relationships. So you have body vibrations when you try to astral project. Yeah, I think that most people are, trying to do this through meditation. So here's what I'll say is I think I've gone over it, but two types of people, but most people kind of are where you can imagine your body like you outside of yourself. So in that example where it's like you imagine what you're going to look like next Friday for your date, or you imagine yourself in your work uniform, it's not usually completely detailed, but it's in like a silhouette, or it's enough detail that you have that brief second where you realize that connection that it's you. So I think that trying to do the meditation and relaxing techniques will just kind of, the goal should be to help you relax enough so that your consciousness can just project naturally. So you should start to notice more of your ethereal body just outside of yourself. And I think that the more you become aware of that, the more you can get information. And it's really that way kind of. The body vibrations usually happen afterwards for me. My hands will go numb, my face. Sometimes I feel the physical pain of how people die when I choose to connect with them. And it can, I have to go ground afterwards so that it doesn't continue to linger, so I don't continue to feel that. And that takes care of it because it's a physical act of grounding. So it grounds both mine and the dead person's, feelings. What that usually is accomplishing is, for example, if somebody's confused or even just they don't want to admit that they died in this young or violent way, it helps them to realize in the physical plane, what has happened to them, acknowledge it, and then they can move on. So yeah, just try to relax and then try to engage with that. Also try the lucid dreaming, and for some people I have talked to, it only takes a few months, or maybe it'll take a year, but that is how you can consciously get better at that. Also just try these other things that really kind of help project your own consciousness, but in a very deliberate kind of normal way. You want to be something or have an aspect of you be, this outstanding, cool person. Make steps to create it, and you'll have, more access to that astral kind of a body. And if you are really focusing on the projection, try not to get afraid when you feel the vibrations, the drops in temperature. Just when that comes into your mind, focus. there'll be maybe a few seconds where you're just kind of searching, at least even for me, and I'm very good at it. And then it's very clear. And then I just hold on to that moment. It is hard to describe, in part because it happens outside of time and space. So the brief way I would explain it is that the astral plane does not have the same kinds of rules about the physical plane. You know, so somebody will say, well, I'll go into somebody's bedroom. And, it's supposed to be haunted. I don't know anything else. All of a sudden, like 1 second later, I've got, you know, physical description and, you know, like how they died. And then generally what, like are they totally conscious? Are they in denial? Like, why are they kind of here? Why is this aspect of the consciousness here? And I really, even I struggle to understand how I can take 1 second and get, you know, 15 minutes out of information out of it. But it's just a one small moment of clear-mindedness. And I definitely protect myself and close after these things so that, well, so the astral parasites don't attach to me. And I have really good spirit protectors. One of them, a headless human man, and he is really helpful in making sure nothing attaches to me. This is like me, kind of a job. Yeah, astral projection is really interesting. So yeah, you can, I mean, think about it this way too. You know, let's say you want a job, so you have to wear like a certain, like a high-class waiter uniform. Imagine yourself looking that way before you ever start to dress that way or go for the job interview. And you'll find that boost in confidence because you've already created this little segment of your personality that isn't judging if you can get the job or not, or thinks you're not good enough, or that nervousness. You've already created it. And you can, you know, that really does help you kind of become that. One of the things that helped me understand this kind of occult stuff is Jung, of course. And it's like, when we think about, okay, now I'm a normal person, then I'm going to be sexy later, then I'm going to be very serious, right? And it sounds like society says it's like crazy, but it's not. It's your facade. It's like we're all choosing to act different parts. I mean, even though we don't choose to be like in pain in the exact details, we're all playing the part of a human being, a daughter, a neighbor, whatever, hotel worker, and you're the star. It's very, very important. And it is okay and easy for you to think of it as, this is my other person, like another aspect of my personality. Because nobody can be just straight up just one thing. And so by engaging that and choosing to, you know, how you'll create various parts of your consciousness, then it actually becomes less confusing and you can kind of go, you know, get kind of skilled at that. Like for me, you know, it's helpful to think, okay, I'm going to be, you know, a witch now. All the powerful imagery comes to mind. Even being normal, it's just another, okay, it's time to do that. Very important stuff. And it's not acting, it's not pre-scripted, but it is what, you know, you come here to do. Okay, somebody ask another question. I got, let's see, what the fuck do I have? I have like 4 tarot decks here, so if anybody wants some tarot, Black Magic Sorcerer, he actually sent me one of these decks. It's the Hermetic Tarot. Really interesting. One that I need to spend a lot of time personally going over because, you know, it's more complex and it's really interesting and awesome. This is my Rider-Waite deck. standard, I've got the little tarot purse. And this will always be my favorite because it just is like, this is what we all are. At some point, whether, even in your lifetime right now, let's say you never get rich, let's say you never get really sick for a long time, you just, one day you die. You'll think about, even if you just think about it, or somebody has that it happen to them, or they act like that personality, you therefore are living that. And the tarot is like, I like to look at it in that kind of secular Jungian way, the process of individuation. And of course, there's no good or bad tarot. This is just, all coming to consciousness is painful. Even the happy cards, they require these experiences, difficult experiences. My husband gave me a couple of these. This one's like the Green Witch Tarot, and it's almost like a Skyrim, the game. Yeah, I like some games. I wouldn't really say I'm a good gamer, but I do like witchcraft kind of Skyrim imagery. If you don't try, you could just Google that. This is just this is just another Rider-Waite deck version. It's just smaller, and then it's like different. It's just a different art style. A couple of the cards are changed, but really it's a similar. I mean, there's so many different plays on the Rider-Waite deck, but the Rider-Waite deck, this shit has, years. Even though I clean my cards with cloth, just the years of wear and tear, it makes it so special. That's why when you love your ritual objects, you just end up loving them more, because it's just like, hey, it's you. Okay, did you already get the Hermetic deck in? Well, good. If you just come to the chat, I'll stay on a little bit longer. I finally got some time, at least, to be home. So, fear in the afterlife. Yeah, well, you know what? I think, I was raised Christian. It's very, very respectful, and I understand that you have to come to that peace within oneself. I thought as a psychic medium, I did study the occult as a teenager, but I thought, oh, God will get mad at me, and I'll go to hell. And so I never did it. I didn't do anything with it for that long period of time, but I finally just grew more complex in my views and came to think of it as the human experience, and that God to me is consciousness. Even Satan. Okay, I use it, and I'm sure it uses me, as just this kind of embrace of the understanding one's depression, one's rejected self kinds of ideas, and in the embrace of the physical world. But it's consciousness, and that if you really contemplate and you believe that this is for you, or that that Christianity is for you, then stay with what makes you feel comfortable, because there's no reason to make yourself feel upset if you're not ready, and maybe you'll never want to do that. I personally don't think there's anything wrong with people with being Christian. I don't jump people's ass or judge them and think, okay, you're Christian. I appreciate it when people pray, and it depends if it's respectful. If anything is respectful, I give respect back, and I still go into saints and different things like that. So as far as myself being concerned with the afterlife, part of my astral projection is this long struggle with my last life. So like when I was a kid, I would see the way I looked in my last life. And I've come to the understanding that I've chosen to retain my memories and personality to help people, and that I wanted to be here on the physical plane. So I'm not so, I think that my work is important and respected by, God consciousness. With that in mind, I mean, heck, if I'm totally wrong or something, I just would, I feel comfortable with who I am and have an answer for, what I do. And I can go and say, I'm just respectful. So with the okay, well, great questions, guys. Okay, so how long it? Yeah, so obviously we're talking about the Rider-Waite was. I probably didn't have another deck till my early 20s. I just had that one, and I looked at it for a while, and I really probably before the internet was super popular and stuff, I would just look at the cards, and not going on Google. I remember I used to just pull them out and look at them, and I was like, well, I could see dead people. What the heck does this guy sitting on a throne have anything to do with anything? But I think that, just looking at it over the years, my own personal judgments, feelings about the cards, brought me so much insight that I was able to, bring into the system of the occult later on. And for me, it's just kind of a prop. So, like, let's say I do a tarot reading for somebody. I don't need it. I take my impressions, feelings, and I place that into the articulated physical, world we're in to explain what I feel is happening for Aquarian. So it's really just become like the back of my hand because I can read people, energy, situations so easy. But the reason I like this so much is because it is humanity. I mean, you get these other witchcraft decks, and they're brilliant, but I love that focus on people. So, and as far as getting all formal about it, numerological card combinations, I just, slowly just read about it. And, of course, just practicing decks. So, just talking to people back in college, some of the first tarot readings I did was like talking to somebody, and I was like, hey, I think I get a feeling like, they're searching. Let me do this reading for you. I'll try a spread and then try a different spread, on other people. So literally try spreads. You can try this on yourself. You can make spreads for yourself, and it's like anything else. You get very good at it very quickly in that kind of practical sense, everyday sense of just reading. So I like to do many different spreads and layouts. I plan to just do, provide links so you can just book a tarot reading with me, but I've got a little bit more things to do for prep for that in the coming months, but it'll be, pretty soon. But yeah, I'll take it and place, it against my feelings. So if you can't just read it by the book, let's say. There's that whole suit of like the earth and finances. It's just kind of, trying to, anticipate the individual needs and how it applies to specific people, which also just happens very fast for me. So get a story. But you'll never go wrong by practicing spreads, looking into the numerological significance. This deck was created by members of the Golden Dawn, and they brought this into basically the 20th century for popular. I mean, it's the most popular deck, and You know, practice. Even with the Goetia, each spirit has an associated card. I like to set that up for ritual. When we pass away, there's not just one answer. That's, of course, it makes me feel stuck. I just want a clean answer, like most people. But it depends. On a variety of things. Some people just die so fast that they usually appear decomposing, gray. It can be unresponsive, or of course, like they're very injured, and that has to do with that complete 1 second severance from the physical body. So that's a thing, and it depends on the landscape. For example, some magnetized kinds of places with portals, it can draw the dead, the dead who are confused back for thousands of years, and they really won't know what's going on too much. And then sometimes people, basically, okay, let's say you're expecting the heaven experience, and there's just such a peace that's it. That individual ego has dissolved right away back into time, space, the elements, basically what God consciousness is. And that's back on the path to becoming an individual again, or, wherever that energy will be directed. Of course, some people are just so attached to a certain thing they've done, or revenge, or property, that pretty much right away they're aware. Now, how this happens, what I've seen is that people will stay attached to their bodies a little bit, and then they'll kind of go, okay, I think I'm dead. Like when they can't control, they'll try to go back into their body. Like, I think it's been in movies, but it is what I see. And they realize that, and then they start to realize that they can manipulate the physical plane through thought, which requires the storage of energy. So they're still as aware of themselves as you or I, and they, whatever is binding them. But usually, if a person ends up being a ghost for whatever environmental reason, or they're just going to stick around their family to reincarnate, they'll be like this real sense of self. They're very conscious, and as time goes on, as their interactions with family happens, or let's say a property gets sold, now it looks different, it can make them more violent, but it can also help dissolve their ego. So they'll be less and less aware of themselves over time, almost like the way that the wind carves a rock. So it's the elements of time and space that work together to dissolve ego, meaning identity, back into the all. And eventually that's going to happen, even for spirits who fight that. So lots of different things can happen, when we die. Of course, reincarnation is the usual kind of thing. And most time, you don't remember who you were. You're not supposed to. It's kind of a burden. So a lot of people remember their last lives as a young child, and then they kind of stop acting it out, because they're coming into that self-aware consciousness that they are now, like if kids, because now it's a different life. But when they're really young, toddlers, they really can't tell the difference between themselves and other people. And so that consciousness from the last life kind of just incorporates itself back into the subconscious. So you've got the same fears, tastes, for random food, personality, pleasure, inclinations, whatever. But you don't need an explanation for it. You just are, this core personality of who, part of who you are. And then other people remember their last few, not many, remember their last lives more vividly as time goes on because of usually having to do with the need to resolve, which I would say applies to me. So yeah, I mean, I really find a lot in Tibetan Buddhism as far as that, and the Book of the Dead. So it's like a handbook for the dead, like we all make fun of in Beetlejuice, but consciousness according to them, it's not like meditation isn't to calm down. It's not like the main reason to do that. The reason to do it is to practice being bodiless. So without your body, like you're training your consciousness. Now for most people, like in Western society, it's just shocking and people, they become these hungry ghosts. But, but by training the mind to be used to the, beyond the body they have, you can it's less shocking, it's less scary. So we can look that up, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and then the different stages of in-between consciousness. It's called the Bardos. And hey, no matter what you believe, there's I think there's something for you as far as, some explanations, which is what I'm always looking for. And the reason I say explanations is because it really does kind of match. I can, a lot of people, I can read their past lives. I've helped some people move on from their last life and incorporate it into this life, get over fears, phobias. And that's really brings me a lot of comfort to do so. But yeah, I think reincarnation, hey, it kind of comes down to this. It's subjective, the macrocosms and microcosms. So there's going to have to be subjective expression in the physical plane. And so no, there really isn't a way to avoid it. There's, if you really don't want to be reincarnated as an ego identity, I think sometimes for all kinds of different reasons, the ego just goes back into the energy of the earth, or really just dissipates, that feeds back into the elements. So that's not a subjective reincarnation experience that, and it's so hard to, pinpoint one answer because there's not all these different factors. TV static. Hey, that's really interesting. So, gentleman brings up that you basically see these entities that look like TV static. I've actually heard that before, and I've seen that on the astral plane. So I vividly see ghosts in detail on the astral plane. Well, and living people. Basically, if somebody's just sitting there, let's say they're bored, it's just a living person, but their astral body's off doing something else or being emotional. That's what I can pick up on. But essentially, the staticky kind of stuff has to do with entities coming into the physical plane, and they're like pixelating, right? That's what I would describe that I have seen people look like. Most of the time when it really is a dead person and they look super tall, it's just their projection, of their own consciousness for whatever reason. It could wish to do you harm, or it can just be that they're so not used to being able to be in a body that they kind of end up looking elongated and having exaggerated features because they're, they're free flowing like a ghost, like a Halloween kind of idea of a ghost. So they have like, stretched kinds of limbs. So some of the reasons that ghosts don't have faces anymore can be that they are trying to hide their identity from you and their intentions. So they don't want, a face to be seen. And sometimes it's just that they don't remember what they look like. So there's a little part of ghosts and, us as people that we kind of have to have that conscious connection with to create our astral bodies. And so without that, because ghosts seem to be in all kinds of states of functioning. Some of them are residual. Some of them are somewhere between residual and conscious. So they'll kind of experience both, almost like they're conscious for a while, trying to, gather energy so that they can hide in the bathroom away from people. But then it's almost like they go to sleep and then they go blank. And so I've seen, ghosts like that they lose features. They lose that over time. But dead people, I have seen them project themselves to look like monsters. I mean, not many, but some of them know they can choose to look that way, whatever way they want. So the TV static deal, I think that it is just, it's what's happening to energy as it comes in comes into the physical plane. So we'll go into that a little bit. A lot of people, and actually myself included, I have personally experienced this. You hear it's like if you hear ghosts talking, it sounds like crackling noise. So you can't hear the conversation, the content of it. It sounds like a radio in another room. That's not because it's in another room. It's because it's in that other plane of existence. So it's kind of got that radio type of sounding feature. That's just happening because it's coming to it's grounding a little bit, and it can't exactly be real in the sense of physical, because it's not. So and all kinds of things like that. A lot of ghosts can't even see people. So that's why they say, "Can you see me? Can you hear me?" They say that to people. On all the ghost investigations, they go, "Can you see me? Can you hear me?" And they talk amongst themselves. And I've seen that with paranormal groups that I've been involved with, where they're just talking amongst themselves, and they can't see people. They're in a different plane. So I live stream the third Friday of every month. And that's just my schedule. It makes it easier. I used to kind of jump on randomly, but I'll be on 10 more minutes. Cheetos or Doritos? Oh gosh, right, the pleasures of living. Doritos. I tried the Flamin' Hot Cheetos, and they kind of wasn't something I liked, so I think I sort of just stick with the classics, with a sandwich, chips in a sandwich. I'll just kind of go for the Doritos. Yeah, people have even said, "Hey, is that what ghosts like? They want to have sex and eat." And it's kind of a joke, but it's really not, because I'll try to put it this way. Let's say you feel sad. I don't know what you can do while you're alive, the multitude of things. Go get drunk, cry, fight. But it's real physical action that you are grounding. But when the dead feel that way, they don't have that way to outwardly feel it. So it is a weird thing to explain, but it is almost, it's like emotionally painful because they don't have an outlet. They don't have a vessel, so of course they find vessels in us. And dead people don't always do extreme things. They're not always looking to possess somebody and make them crazy, or, you know, any kinds of typical pop culture things. It's just more like they're picking people to briefly be attached to feel what it's like to eat again. I mean, usually they have another, like, hang up while they figure out how to get to the physical plane. They'll throw in some pleasures along the way, but oh yeah, I love junk food though. I mean, I'm just a really weird eater. But I've been trying to do the health stuff in recent years a little bit more. But I used to just binge on cake or little Debbie snacks and whatever. If I do stuff like that now, I just don't feel good. And I think the feeling of not feeling good is slowly outweighing my desire for that kind of stuff. So slowly, goodbye childhood junk food craving. But man, is that a great part of being alive. Recommended books. You know what? I like anything by Jung. Of course, I think maybe my favorite would be like Man and His Symbols. So some of my favorite classic stuff is, Faust. So that is basically a guy who, he's a sorcerer, and then Mephistopheles is like the devil's agent that gets summoned to go be, his aid. And Mephistopheles and God have these in-depth conversations about the purpose of humanity. And it's really, really interesting. Is man just a greedy animal? Is man more animal than divine? Can man even control, his bestial kinds of, self? And I love that. I love Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray. So a good selection of classics. Yeah, I mean, as far as not occult stuff, I just like Dean Koontz, Stephen King, Douglas Preston, and Lincoln Child. Any kinds of classic grimoires. So, Joan Ware, Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley is very, very dry reading. It's like reading the dictionary. But, Thelema is just, it's kind of like you got Buddhism, that understanding of the self, of the nature of existence, and Thelema kind of helped me understand the human individual ego needs that I kind of put together with that. So even though Crowley's original works are kind of dry, there's so much there. The lesser vanishing ritual pentagram. Crowley talks about how the 72 spirits of the Goetia, both Crowley and Jung talked about, they're just parts of your mind. So that's just how you're going to access this one part of your personality, right? Jung, likewise, he went to the Psychical Research Convention in probably 120 years ago, and he said, "Hey, this is real fascinating to basically spiritualists at the time, but I don't think it's real. It's a fascinating idea, paranormal. but it's not real. So it's in your mind. But by the time that both of these gentlemen died, they had changed their public opinions to say that that does not account for the entirety of the occult or paranormal. I mean, especially and including, I mean, explain, if the paranormal physically happens to you, nothing can really make you feel like, wow, that's a good explanation. Like when I was young and I was strangled, had my hands around my neck by an evil spirit, I don't have an explanation for that. I mean, look, you can look at it as an adult and say, wow, I imagined it, but I didn't. I vividly remember the details of watching a door slam. And I used to see ghosts as outside of myself. And very detailed, including smells of blood, smells of clothing. That could be in my mind, but I'm just saying that scratches and, if it happens to you and you don't have an experience, then no logic is going to, nobody else was you experiencing that, so it's really not going to quite make that. For me, I still think that these are aspects of our mind and consciousness that we, it's everybody's going to experience all this differently. So you're tying that into who you are. Does it explain that it's just in your mind only? No, because we are so much greater than ourselves. But that's the most, both mundane and it's an enlightening explanation, because when you think of how powerful your mind can be, your mind, of course, can make you imagine things, but it doesn't make it not valid. Freud. Oh, Freud. I loved how Freud and Jung had a friendship. And Herman, it's good to see you again. I always love all your comments on my videos. Yeah, I have. Oh my gosh, I love that. I just have a copy of it. So we're talking about Crowley and McGregor Mathers. So he is the guy who was the Golden Dawn occultist, and Crowley, he basically got Crowley into the Golden Dawn with him, and they split up over stupid differences later, but we do have their work together. So when we talk about Crowley, like I think with the evil spirits, I think that Crowley, oh God, he was a poet. He was a big partier at his school. I think he's a theatrical guy. He was bisexual, so he was very comfortable expressing his emotions and sexual urges, which, if you think about it, is theatrical. I mean, even in private, it's still a facade. It's a show. You're expressing that part of yourself, and he was so comfortable with that I think when the British press said Crowley is the most wickedest man in the world and a Satanist, he didn't deny it, because it's just fascinating to people. So I think he kept a lot of those labels to interest people in his works. And I don't think that it's just evil. At least not in my personal experience. Yeah, my workings with demons does not reflect this evil either. Demons, I think that's my last video posted besides this, is that demons are, they have way bigger appetites than humans. And it's like if you were so thirsty you hadn't had a drink in 2 days. They have these exaggerated appetites because they chose to come to the physical plane, followed by mankind. So it's kind of like a curse. They're cursed in this little bit of a way with exaggerated cravings, but it's just kind of the nature of a demon, they tend to be impulsive, and theatrical and stuff in themselves, but their goal is not just to be evil. It is they're very tied to humans, so most of what they want is what what we want, but more so what we experience. Nor do I just think that angels are just good. I think angels kind of, in my experience, angels have this functionality that is almost, that we kind of tie it to the divine in classical like Christianity, like the angel of death is an angel doing this physical kind of a job. But it's like divine and holy because it's thought of as, to ascend to heaven, to ascend to the next plane. Whereas demons and their tasks, which is being associated with graveyards, decomposition, madness, and all the petty things we as people want, lovers, wealth, whatever, they're all about that because they're almost more human than humans. That's how hungry they are. But they also have this knowledge like gods, like angels, where they think, even with psychic people, they think more outside of time and space. So they really don't have that tie so much, and they can. Oh yeah, I love John Dee, Dr. John Dee, and definitely that's how I heard of scrying in the proper way. I had been practicing that for years, just in the mirror, watching my face change. But then I learned about the actual methods of Dr. John Dee and his experience with Edward Kelly. He definitely spent a lot of time into that. I just wanted an explanation, and I thought I had the occult. And it has helped sharpen these abilities. And it also has helped me to leave the occult behind when I need to just be normal and not be thinking about, like I'm not just all crazy, because being psychic is kind of like always being tuned into everyone and everything, like buildings, energies, emotions, that I think the techniques of the occult have helped me separate my own consciousness from others. So I find the time and place, the use for it to protect myself and, maximize, I guess both realities, both worlds. Yeah, Crowley's totally, Oh yeah, he's just so flamboyant. He tried poetry. Of course, he wrote all those books. That's very flamboyant. He thought very highly of himself, which is required in order to make, a mark. And of course, I always hope it is for a productive and common good of humanity, which I consider Crowley did, to get us thinking. He talks about all these different aeons that make a lot of sense to me. We're now in the aeon forest. I'm totally in love with Lima and its philosophy. I think that Aleister Crowley, I think that his birth name was Edward, wasn't it? Edward? I know a lot about Crowley. Oh, he had a Buddhist friend. What the fuck was his name? You could probably come up with it real easy. He ended up living in a monastery because he was so sick. He died probably pretty young, or maybe early middle age. And he was an electrical engineer and genius who came up with some inventions. And he wasn't interested in sexuality and party associated with the occult, but he was really interested in the projection of consciousness. And then later he became Buddhist. But Crowley spent a lot of time with this gentleman who had a great influence on him. I was talking recently about some people, they have such a surface level understanding. of the occult where they hear about Crowley. And one of the remarks was, so Crowley and Thelema is all about hedonism. And, you know, I heard that and I was like, no. I mean, even Crowley, even though he was a drug addict, of course, every other addict, I think, starts out thinking that they're partying, or at least effectively escaping pain. You know, that it really, like, to just live through the pleasures of experience. It's so much more than that. It's about expanding consciousness. And Crowley engaged in a lot of things like meditation. I mean, he did a lot of batshit crazy stuff, as we know. Probably most of it compounded by drug addiction. But, I mean, he spent a lot of his time not just being a hedonist, you know, organizing his thoughts into works, meditating, going in, you know, for retreats, not with followers, but like alone or with a couple of people to just meditate, you know. Probably when he was younger, before he got so addicted and everything. Absolutely fascinating. I love Thelema. I don't know, I heard about Crowley like, oh, you know, the way everybody else does. Like, he's the ultimate occultist. So I had to know more. And I do like to read what others' thoughts are, but the way I like to do it is read what did he write? What were his thoughts? You know, and that's what I can take from that. And there's so much from that. But you know, good time. I mean, Jung, that was when Jung was alive. Maybe was Freud alive in the 1940s? Crowley died in 47, but that time where the occultism was just kind of, Netta Fornio. I've been reading a lot about that lately. She is a lady occultist from around that time, and she went on an island retreat. She could have been prone to hallucinations or, you know, the creative mindset of an occultist. And they ended up finding her dead, probably from exposure, because there wasn't any kind of, trauma to the body. But it's just such a mystery about how she passed away. Dion Fortune. I like Michael Ford. He's Luciferian because I love Luciferianism. I liked Satanism for a while. Satanism is about rejecting Christian God at the end. But Luciferianism to me is this spiritual food of taking a certain amount of pride in this physical life and finding meaning really. And lots of different parts, all just trying to really explain, you know, the haunting from when I was younger, why I see dead people. Am I crazy? I've learned that there's not one answer, of course. So, oh yeah, the Plymouth Brethren. They were just basically like this strict, Christian sect, and I believe that Crowley's father was the one who was into that, and he had some kind of association in the church in that way. So he was very highly regarded, but he passed away when Crowley was pretty young. But, you know, the strict, to hear Crowley, here's what you're going to think now, and here's what you're going to do, and you're going to grow up and be this way. Just like most of us. He became a teenager, and he was like, I'm not going to be this way. I'm going to tell the world what to think, not the world will tell me what to think. Okay, Freud died in 1939. Okay, so, you know, because of course he comes before Jung and everything, so. Oh, yeah, exhaustion. I mean, God, I think I already know how and when I'm going to die, but I'm not really worried about altering things. part of my interest in the occult was learning how to control these abilities, because it was like being crazy. I couldn't filter anything out. You know how, like, let's say, okay, you're sitting here, you're trying to write a paper, but the air conditioning's on, the dog's barking, dinner's almost ready, whatever. And you can address those stimuli and then subsequently tune them out after you assign them importance. I've only in the last, when I was in my 20s, did I really teach myself how to do that, because there was none of that for me. It was just like, and it became more overwhelming. So I couldn't tell what's important and what's not. And I'm not exactly sure what that, all that has to do with it, but I knew that I had to tune it out sometimes, because it was, adding to, I think, what we would kind of consider mental illness, depression, anxiety, all these other factors in my real life are more important, or whatever, just as formative. But this was a part of it, because for me, when President Marvis is the health demon, and he's kind of giving me this outlet for understanding anatomy and death, and in this loving, kind of calm, rational way. But as a child, seeing dead people all the time, it was very frenzied, panicked, because the way that it would usually manifest for me would be like, I'd walk around the corner and there would be a person. So then I turn back around and then there's somebody else, and all the things you can imagine. Part of why being a psychic is exhausting, and it's it's just hard for children, is because ghosts, they don't, the spirit world doesn't censor things. So we talk about children psychics that come to attention because they're having disturbing dreams. They get hurt from the spiritual plane, because they don't deny the engagement. Like when a spirit, tries to engage with a child, they'll accept. And, but what comes along with that, even if a child is just, reading the astral body of this ghost, all the adult things you can imagine. Somebody killed themselves, and that, that's a 5-year-old, whatever, having to experience that. So even psychic mediums, were once children like me. So it's like, wondering, why do people put guns in their mouth? Why couldn't, is God going to be mad? All those kinds of questions I would have as a kid. It was just like way too much. And it's just the spirit world. It has a purpose. It's found in the physical plane. Not many individuals can understand it. So there is no censorship. They're all hungry for somebody to listen. A lot of people who do experience the paranormal, but they say that they're just imagining it, and then they close their minds off to that possibility, probably saving their sanity a little bit. But I think there's I think that it's great to be more of a normal-minded person, because we all make the world go round. But I think that, this way of thinking, I really, that's how I help people. I can understand this emotional depth, and that kind of goes along with the real dark side of humanity. And that has been my way. A lot of people don't want to talk about their dark thoughts, and even if they don't talk about them, I can kind of give this helpful, good advice. My message is always one of hope, in what I consider this aeon for us, where we are becoming childlike again. And I think that we're integrating the female and male aspects of our consciousness. Of course, it's very exaggerated. Anything that becomes normal later has to be exaggerated first. So all the strife, we've seen it before in history, but I do think it is the embrace of the imagination the embrace of the creative abilities of the individual. And I know the world's a little bit of a fucked up place sometimes, but I just have this message of hope and the potential for humanity, because the way I like to see it is, you know what, there was probably hundreds of other Earths and subjective universes that no longer exist, but it needed to be here again, and there really is no escape from the subjective experience. And so the best thing to do is go with reality. So what I mean by that is, the better you treat your body, if you treat your body good, and then your mind will follow. This is all, or you can treat your mind good and get your body to follow. That's when you align yourself with reality and align your chakras, and things will go better. It's lining up with harmony, and that's for each individual to determine on their own path. Another Thelema idea. Everyone has their own path. It's not good or bad. It is for you, the individual, the star. You're the star of your own show. You're the audience. You're the actor. You're the director. And you're the star. So embrace that individuality. And remember, I'm going to have to go actually, but leave my little message of hope here. I don't care if you have some kind of menial job, if you don't think you're important. I promise that you are. And it's okay to wait to have to be a little bit older before you really become this standout, impactful personality in some way. Even if you just like to be a quiet individual, you do matter. You can bring something to subjective reality that nobody else can. Because, that's why we're all different people. We're not all meant to be psychics or some stoic, rational individual. This is like the beauty, that we're all different. And I know that different layers of humanity don't get treated with respect. But I just hope that you all can find some hope. And I always find hope in the tarot, because this too shall pass. I think when I say that in the Bible, it does. But all this is it's not permanent. The only thing permanent is impermanence, and it's just here for you to learn. And sometimes we're famous, sometimes we're not, but it's all important. And just think of it as a creative art project. Engage imagination, because it's not valued anymore so much in popular society. But even if you just do your drawings for the rest of your life and nobody knows, it will just enrich your existence and your interactions with others, and it will actually help with your anxiety and your own sense of self so much. All those things are very important. I've had a very fascinating, lovely evening with you all. I'm going to go now, and the third Friday of every month, unless I make a video ahead of time saying I can't make it, then I'll be here, and that's just where I jump on for an hour or two right now. I'll be making videos again, regular YouTube videos again soon. And for now, you can just visit my Patreon page, and I'll make Patreon videos, bonus content for this month. I'll have that up pretty soon. And then, like in a few months, I'd like to start taking private, consultations to some degree. I will keep you all updated. Thank you so much for attending.